What's up, dude? If you've been looking for another cold weather comfort food recipe to add to your cooking arsenal, then I'm happy to tell you that your search is over. This beef ragu recipe, not to be confused with ragu, but more on that later, combines two of my favorite things: saucy, slow-cooked, flavor-packed, melt-in-your-mouth beef and perfectly cooked pappardelle pasta. My friends, this is one you are definitely gonna wanna make. Now let's go! For starters, when it comes to choosing your beef for this recipe, just make sure you buy something that has a lot of fat marbled into the meat. Today, I'm using boneless short ribs. If you can find short ribs on the bone, that's even better because those bones are gonna add a ton of flavor to your braising liquid. And if you can't find those, you can always use the trustworthy chuck roast. That is always gonna be good for braising. It's like your standard M16 of slow cooking meat. I just cut my boneless short ribs into cubes about this size, and I'm just hitting them with a little bit of rosemary salt. If you know, you know. And if you don't know, I will put a link to that video and recipe down in the description. It's just a homemade herb and garlic salt that we make on this channel, and considering the holidays are coming up, you have to learn this one because it is so perfect for holiday cooking. And I'm just gonna flip my beef as I season here so I can kind of get all sides, just like so. Don't want to overdo it. We can always add more later if we need. And just a little bit of Sergeant Gilbert reporting for duty, which is just black pepper. And I'll do the same thing, getting it on all sides. The next step is to sear off your beef. I've got a preheated pan here. It's been on medium-high heat for about 3-4 minutes. I'm just gonna add a little bit of neutral oil. This is just avocado oil. And I'll just carefully lower in my beef and cook it for about 3 minutes on that first side, or until it's got a really nice, deep, rich brown color. Then flip it and repeat that process on the other side before removing from the pan. Just make sure you don't take that pan to the sink to clean it. We're gonna use it right now. And what we're gonna use it for is the cooking off of the tomato paste that goes into this recipe. For some reason, when you use tomato paste straight from the can or tube, they have this weird sort of sour tinge to them that's not really nice. And when you cook it off, the flavor really changes, it deepens. And by the way, this is the only way to take tomato paste out of the box. Just, you know. And cooking it off and all that beef fat and juice can only do it a lot of good. So I'm going in right now. Pan's on medium heat. Get it all in there. Yeah. And I kind of just smash it down, try to spread it out a little bit and just let it cook. And all you got to do is give it a stir every 30 seconds or so. And then I like to spread back out. And after about 3 or 4 minutes, you'll see it's dried out a lot and it's totally done. You can also smell the difference. It just smells a lot better now. So what I'll do is just turn my pan off, and then I'll just set this aside for now until we need it. Now in a separate Dutch oven type pot, we're gonna start building the rest of the sauce. If you don't have one of these, just use whatever pot you got. And you may be wondering why I didn't sear the beef in this pot. That's a great question. I think you're very observant, Brian. It's gonna be crazy if your name was Brian. So I definitely have seared meat in pots like this before, but it doesn't give it a really good sear. And what I noticed is by the time the meat actually browns, the side of the pots have gone completely black. And then you combine that with the fact that you're about to add a bunch of wet ingredients that'll wash away all that blackness, and it's just a recipe for a bad stew. Overall, a steel pan or a carbon steel pan or a cast iron pan is just gonna do a much better job at searing your meat. For the tomatoes, I simply bought San Marzano tomatoes, but you can just use whatever tin tomato you can find. And mine actually came in whole pieces like this, so I just got in there with my hand and squished it up. And to be honest with you, I actually just kind of like doing this. I don't know, it's something satisfying about this. And I'll just leave it a little bit chunky. The pot's on medium heat. I'm gonna start by adding the olive oil, and not exactly traditional, but a little butter in here is really nice. And then we're gonna add our carrots and onion, celery can off. And we're gonna first start by cooking this down for about 8 minutes. I'll also do one more little pinch of rosemary salt and a bit more of Sergeant Gilbert's insides. If you want at this point, you could also add garlic. I personally try to leave it out of any kind of braised meaty things. I just feel like the flavor is a little strong. Don't get me wrong, I love garlic, just not in everything. So what I'm going in with now is a little bit of thyme, just stripped off the stem, and just a little touch of chili flake. Not much at all, but enough for a little subtle heat. I love the way that thyme crackles, listen, as it hits the hot oil. So I'll go another 30 seconds with those two ingredients. And now we're going in with our tomato paste, which I'll just work in like so. Wow, this already just smells so good. A minute with the tomato paste, and now I'm adding my red wine. It's just Cabernet Sauvignon, and I don't like too much wine, so I do a little bit less than most recipes you're gonna see out there. It's important now we cook this down first. And just remember, when you're cooking, and especially sauces and braises and stuff like this, we're crunching down and packing down flavors, right? We take the tomato paste right where it needs to be. We take the wine right where it needs to be. Next, we'll do the same thing with the tomatoes and then the beef broth. There's a little bit of rhythm and thought behind the concentration of these flavors, so it's just something to keep in mind when you're cooking. You don't want to just throw everything in at the same time. And you can absolutely just leave the wine out of this recipe, and in place of it, you can use about 1/3 of the amount in red wine vinegar. So if you do a cup of wine in the recipe, do 1/3 cup of red wine vinegar, or maybe even a little less. And after about 5 minutes, our wine has really reduced. It's cooked off as much as it can be. Next, I'm going to add my crushed tomatoes. Just go ahead and give that a mix in. And much like we did with the tomato paste, we're first going to cook this down for about 5 minutes just to concentrate and deepen that tomato flavor. Next, I'm adding in my beef stock, and I also saved a little bit of this beef stock and used it to deglaze the pan that the tomato paste cooked in. I just noticed it still had a bunch of brown bits, so I thought why not use that up in our braising liquid. And I also like adding just a little bit of red wine vinegar because that acid just kind of lifts it up and it makes a heavy dish seem a little bit lighter. The art of balancing fat and acid is cooking. Once you get that right, you're gonna unlock everything. All your favorite foods have it. All we need to do now is add our beef and look at all those juices that came out while the beef rested. Definitely get those in there. Oh wow. Scrape that out. Now we're just gonna make sure all our beef is nicely submerged. And when it comes to braised dishes, one great trick I learned while working in restaurants is to keep a pastry brush sitting in some warm water. And so as it cooks, you can begin to brush down the sides of the pot like this, which just washes all those little brown bits back into the sauce where it belongs, which does a couple things. I mean, all that stuff on the edge is flavor, so it should be in your stew. And on another great note, you're cleaning it as it's cooking down, so when you go to wash it up later, it will be easy. And if you like pro tips like that, maybe subscribe, hit the little subscribe button. Now all we need to do is develop some patience and let this thing cook. And remember, whenever you're braising meat, you want just a tiny little simmer going, just some light little bubbles around the edges. If you're boiling it, you're gonna ruin it. It's gonna dry out the beef. We wanna cook this very, very gently, so just a touch over low heat. And what I like to do is just put a cracked lid on it like that, so it won't reduce so fast and it can also breathe a little bit. Now while this cooks, let me explain something about ragu. You may have searched for it at one point or another, and you may have found that there's two different spellings for it. One is R-A-G-U and one is R-A-G-O-U-T. Now look, it's not two different spellings, it's two different dishes. The R-A-G-U is the Italian version which we're making today, and it's actually usually made with ground meat cooked in a tomato sauce, much like this one, and it's something you serve with pasta. Now the other ragu with the O-U-T on the end is the French version, and that's a standalone stew, can be made with vegetables or fish or meat. And you can serve that French version with a pasta or a side as well, but it's usually served alone as a standalone stew. I hope that clarifies that issue for you because I don't see anyone talking about that. Now while that ragu cooks, can we please talk about the overwhelming amount of trash we accumulate in our kitchens and around our house, and especially during the holidays? And to help with all of that, I am quite happy I found the sponsor of today's video, Blueland. Blueland's cleaning supplies are people and planet friendly because they make their products free of single-use plastic while making their packaging compostable or recyclable. And as you know, most laundry and dishwasher pods come with plastics around them. All Blueland's tablets are made from natural derived ingredients and made without the use of any harmful chemicals. Your tablets will arrive in compostable packaging, and all you need to do is store them in the tin for future use. And when you're ready to use them, simply just pop one in the dishwasher as normal and watch the magic unfold as your dishes get super clean without any of the use of harsh chemicals. And Blueland doesn't stop there because they make their hand soap in a way that I think is just so cool and fun to use. And what you do is make your own full bottle of hand soap just with a tablet, avoiding all that extra plastic. And they currently have this holiday hand soap gift set which was inspired by a box of chocolates. You'll get 12 cents in total. I just picked the one that sounded the most interesting to me, which was evergreen. Then just fill up your provided forever bottle with hot water and simply drop the tablet inside. Keep the nozzle off while the tablet dissolves and it's ready for use in minutes. There's no shaking or stirring required. And with Blueland, you can get even more in savings by buying refills in bulk or signing up for a subscription. They also have ways to customize your subscription so you don't run out of your most used products early. And currently, Blueland is sharing a special offer with my viewers. All you have to do is click the link down in the description or scan the QR code on screen to save 15% off your first kit. Thank you, Blueland, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the recipe. Here we are 2.5 hours later and our beef ragu is done. I tested a little piece of meat. It's nice and tender. I also added about a half cup of water halfway through the cooking process because as it cooks, even on low temperatures, if it gets too thick, that bottom is gonna catch and stick and possibly burn. And you don't want that, so you can absolutely just add a little bit of water. Now to tell you the truth, guys, ideally you would want to let this sit for at least an hour before you use it. That meat needs to relax in the sauce. And that's an essential pro tip for braising that makes a world of difference in the tenderness of your meat. To take it a step further, if you make this the day before and let it sit in the fridge overnight and then reheat it the next day, it's gonna be the perfect bite. However, you don't have to do that, but I would recommend you let it rest in here for at least 30 minutes, an hour, even better. Once my meat has rested, all I'm doing now is shredding it up a little bit. I'm using 2 big pieces of wood because I don't want to scratch my pan. If it cools down enough, you could definitely do it with your hands as well. You could also leave bigger chunks of beef in here if you like. I want some kind of shredded and I want some kind of big. I don't want like pulled pork shredded meat, but I want a little bit of shred in there. But I mean, that's totally personal preference, so you can do what you like. All that's left to do now is to cook the pasta, which in this case is pappardelle. Love pappardelle. It's one of my favorite pastas. I don't know, it just feels like there's less chewing that's required for pappardelle. It's really good. And I'm just gonna salt up my water a little bit, not too much. And then I'll go ahead and just drop in my pasta pasta. It cooks really fast, just about 5 minutes. All we gotta do now is add some of our ragu to a pan. If you plan on using all of it at once, you could definitely just toss the pasta into the pot, but I'm not doing all of it. And then I'm just going straight in with my pappardelle. I'm just using tongs to get the pappardelle in there, so we're getting a little bit of pasta water too, but I don't want it to get too watered down, something like this. All you have to do is just toss it up with your pasta and it is literally ready to go. And when you serve it, I highly recommend you shred over some Parmesan cheese and a little parsley if you like. Okay, Marcus, here we go. Oh, and by the way, we're looking forward to this upcoming comfort food season, like saucy, meaty dishes like this. Kind of my thing. Wow, here we go. Oh, that's just beef. Oh man.
I don't really eat pappardelle.
You like it?
I'm a fan.
It's soft, you know? It's like easier to chew.
It's easier to get on a fork too. Easier to eat. I feel like when I eat spaghetti, it shoots up and slaps me in the eye when I'm trying to finish it.
Delicious, so comforting. Like one of those dishes you kind of want to like leave me alone kind of thing. Let me sit over here and eat it. I don't want to be disturbed. That's how I feel.
Definitely worth making.
Delicious. Make it. Thanks for watching today, my friend. I hope you are as excited as I am about cold weather comfort food season. All these saucy dishes are seriously my favorite. If you're looking for more ideas, this coq au vin and that boeuf bourguignon will seriously not let you down. They are both just truly excellent. And if you're into written recipes, check out my Master in the Making ebook. I will link that down in the description under the video. Until next time, you know I love you and I'm out.